Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Monday. It's Daryl here. It's 9 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I just got back from my 6 mile hike and I've got some ideas. This is kind of an opinion piece. I didn't take the time to really look up numbers and names and all that stuff. But I want to talk a little bit about Donald Trump. To tell you guys the truth, I remember Bo of the Fifth Column made a video back about a month and a half ago about not giving Trump, after he left office, not giving him too much attention, spending every day talking about what's Trump doing this and what's Trump saying that. And I thought about that and I totally agreed with him. I just would rather leave him to the garbage dump of history, where he belongs. But lately, there's been a few things that I just need to talk about, and it's some disheartening things that I just kind of depresses me about my fellow Americans. Let me start at the very beginning. So this last weekend, there was the high-priced event. I don't believe it was at Mar-a-Lago. I believe it was right down the street, where well-heeled Republicans, paid money to go to this event to get some FaceTime with Donald Trump and other, high-profile Republicans and all that. DeSantis was there, and all the other big names. And the reporting this today on Monday is that a lot of the Republicans that went there were not happy with the way that Trump ranted. Like, he tore into McConnell. He called McConnell a big loser, the biggest loser of all time, and some others. He used profanity. There was a couple other people from the Republican Party that he tore into. And of course, he went into the whole that the election was for a fraud and all that again, blah blah blah, all about him. And so there's a lot of Republicans that paid a lot of good money, and they wanted to hear about the good times, about supposedly all the good stuff that Trump did, and where the future's going. And they didn't hear that; they just heard the regular Trump, and they were upset about this. There's even some reports that they walked out, and I don't get it. My opinion, I don't get it. It was Trump being Trump. What did they think he was going to say? There's these videos, from about a week or two back, when he crashed a wedding party. And, and he kind of gave the bride and groom a blessing as an afterthought at the very end. And he just ranted the whole time, So this bride and groom has Trump at their wedding ranting about the election being stolen from him. This is what he's done. It's always been about whining that he's the victim, complaining, making somebody the enemy, somebody's the culprit, somebody's to blame. This is what he's done from the very first day. It's been a very hateful, angry Trump the whole time, and some people just love it because that's what they call thinking or speaking like they do, and that's where you get these Trump supporters. So anyway, I don't understand what they did they think he was all of a sudden going to be reformed and try to that he was going to be reasonable and logical and thoughtful. No, of course not. Okay, now another thing, there's been a few polls that have come out recently, and I've seen interviews with a reverend, some politicians in Texas. I think it was a Rasmussen poll, that so many Republicans still believe that the election was stolen, that it was fraudulent. And there's a couple quotes and this I just find disheartening that so many of my fellow Americans, millions of them, believe a lie. I wouldn't even call it a conspiracy theory at this point. It's a flat out lie, and a good portion of America still believes this. So like I said, I saw an interview. I think it was with a Texas reverend. I think it was. And he talked about the red wave or the red tsunami or something like that. And a lot of these Trump supporters, they remind me of flat earthers, people that just don't have a concept of large numbers. Now, there was over 150 million people, the most people that ever voted in this last election. And we have these Trump supporters using the reasoning that, like, they point to all the bumper stickers and the yard signs and the rallies. And this is what bothers me, is that they really believe that a vast majority, like 80 or 90%, that Trump won in a landslide. And they truly believe that 80 or 90% of America loves Donald Trump and wanted him to be president again. And that bothers me, because they don't get it. Like I said, it seems like they have this concept. They have a hard time understanding large numbers. Take, for instance, if you had 100 rallies with 10,000 Trump supporters at each one, that's 1 million people. 100 rallies before the election. 10,000 in each rally. It's still only 1 million people at the most. We had 150 million people vote. And they don't take into consideration that a lot of the people, now they are crazy for Donald Trump. Bumper stickers, hats, everything. And they don't take into consideration that the average person that didn't vote for Donald Trump, they weren't crazy like that. They weren't like such a big fan of Joe Biden. That's the truth. But they had come to realize that Donald Trump is bad for America, that he's a liar, and they got a good feeling of what he was all about over the last 4 years. So there was a vast number of Americans, both Democrat and Republican, that just would not have Donald Trump have 4 more years. And we're going to vote for Joe Biden. Now, these people didn't put lawn signs up, didn't go to Joe, and there were no Joe Biden rallies because, and again, with this, Joe Biden was in the cellar nonsense. No, Joe Biden was doing what good, patriotic, intelligent Americans were supposed to do, they were doing, and not gathering in large groups in the middle of a pandemic. And I don't know if it's willful ignorance or if they really believe what they're saying. Another thing I think about, if there was fraud, all right, it would have to be multiple states, right? And there'd be multiple municipalities in each state. We're talking of hundreds of different voting districts in order to pull this off, really, right? It would have to be at least 10 states. And then 100 municipalities in each of these states, or at least, let's say a dozen. We're still talking about hundreds of areas of supposed fraud. Now, supposedly, it was dead people or immigrants. Now, how did these dead people and immigrants get on the voting lists at these polling places? It would have taken, for a conspiracy of this size, it would have taken thousands, tens of thousands of people working in somewhat of unison to put this into a plan to pull this off and not get caught. Not one single person getting caught. And now, a couple months later, nobody has come out. No, there's been no whistleblowers. There's been no, like, a situation where a husband or a wife knew that their spouse was involved in this fraud, and they get divorced. And so there hasn't been one incident where there was a jilted lover or something that ratted out, my lover was in on this voter fraud. Nope, not one person. Even though, if somebody could come out now, if that really did happen, there was really fraud, with illegal immigrants or dead people voting. If that really did happen, and somebody had proof, they'd be famous forever in history books right now. If they come out with that, they'd be famous. They'd be wealthy beyond, they'd be on TV shows, But no, nope, not one person. Got crazy Mike Lindell claiming he's got proof for, on and on. So Trump will be back in April. Now I believe it's August. Trump's going to be back in August now, according to Mike Lindell. But not one person, no proof, not one whistleblower, nothing. Crickets. That's it. And people really believe this, Tens of thousands of people be on this. They'd have to be. It couldn't be 10 people or 100 people. It would have to, if you're talking about multiple states. It's not logical. It's more illogical than, say, the people believe that we never landed on the moon. This is even more illogical, makes less sense than that. And you're telling me millions of Americans still believe this, and the damage that's doing to our democracy. Now we have all these states pushing these voter suppression legislation because of something that never even happened. And you see the damage still. It's because, I don't think we're just gonna see the damage get exponentially bigger and vaster. The damage that Donald Trump did to this country, and he's still doing it. He's still dividing us. He's dividing the Republican Party just this weekend. It just amazes me that people are still buying into this. Not just a few, but we're talking millions. In this Rasmussen poll, I believe it was 80% of all Republicans believed the election was stolen. We're talking, if there were 70 million Republican voters, 75 million, 80% of that would be 60 million people believe this nonsense, this claptrap, this illogical, with no proof. It makes me worry that my fellow Americans buy into this. It's their opinion, and they're right to believe whatever they want. But you can see the damage still, like a stone in a pond, just still going out and out and out. All right. I'll be back later with another video. You guys have a great Monday.